Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Paul with his lovely Christmas tree outfit.
All right, so everybody, before you start watching, if you're on YouTube, you have to go comment below, and we have to find out who won the Christmas.
Well, if anybody is watching and you watch or you appreciate Christmas Vacation with Clark Griswold, that Christmas movie, my shirt, you can't really see it, but the front of it says, why is the carpet wet, Todd? And then the back of it says, I don't know, Margot. So if you don't get that reference, I don't know if we could be friends.
You also have face paint on. I got to give you some credit there.
I'm Rudolph. Yeah.
And an elf choker, whatever that's called.
Well, it's supposed to be like if I'm Rudolph, like his little collar, but you know.
Oh, you're Rudolph the red-nosed.
Yeah, that's why my my nose is red, and then I have like a little like collar, know, for him. So yeah.
All right.
Well, I had an outfit picked out, but you guys know what happened to that one. It actually went in the trash on accident. So.
Did you remember throwing the box out, or you sure you saw it was delivered?
It was delivered. It was sitting on my counter, and I remember putting it somewhere, and I don't remember where I put it. And my place isn't that big. I searched everywhere, and the only thing I can consider is I threw it out with my other boxes.
So you got a box off Amazon, put it on your counter, never opened it, and threw it away.
Yes.
And you were not sober.
Define sober.
There's marijuana involved.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I will say I've done something similar before, and I was completely sober, but I had a supplement actually. I got a package of supplements, and it was the one that was the most expensive. I didn't realize it was still at the very like bottom crevice in the packaging, and I threw it down my trash chute. And then I came in and I realized, oh crap, it wasn't there, and I realized I threw away that like $50 supplement. So that was lovely, but.
Yeah, I think that brings me back to memories as a kid of opening the stockings on Christmas morning and not realizing that my dad had stuffed like the best thing in the stocking, which would be like a necklace or something all the way at the bottom. And then, the day after Christmas, my dad going, "Hey, where's that necklace?" I'm like, "What necklace?" And then that
It's a very dad thing to do. Like moms would be like, "Don't forget the one thing down there at the bottom. You might want to check and make sure something else is down there." Dads just don't even think about that.
I mean, I was already on to the next thing. So Lexi had a good idea for this episode. We were going to do a year in review, both personal and probably some big picture stuff. I think we can talk about some of our favorite memories of the year. And then also we have all the data now from this year in competition. So we can talk about what the national shows look like. Because I think one of our first discussions of the year was that there was only 52 girls at the Junior USAs, and everyone was like, well, that's always a small show. So we were just curious how things would progress. We have all that data now. We can talk about that. And I kind of went down a data rabbit hole and dug up a bunch of other stuff on other shows and just looking at trends in the sport. So so, I mean, it's crazy to think about, but I feel like the first thing to talk about would have been last year is the Arnold, right? Like, did we do anything in January or February? When did we do our Command the Stage? Did we do that February?
February last year.
February, yeah, we did. Yeah, and it was okay. Yes, now that's coming back to me. So it was February. It was downtown Tampa because it was like a block from where I live, and it was at that nice like hotel right above Starbucks. So yeah, we had it in February, and then this year we're going to be having it in March.
Yeah. So to be fair, I know we're more than 50% sold out, and we've only really sent the link to a few people internally.
It's funny because when I posted, not the link, but I posted about it on Friday once I heard that it was live, just like on my story, like for my clients. And I had a couple of your clients reach out to me, Paul, and they're like, I need the link. Because knew you were at nationals, so you were busy. So yeah, and as of I believe it was yesterday, which is Monday, we had 18 out of 30 spots filled. So we're
Yeah.
definitely probably like 1/3 or 2/3 of the way full at this point.
Yeah, I haven't sent it to many of my clients yet. I've just because I figured this week what I would do is I would send it with my video responses in the email. So that's what I'm doing. So when we may add a few slots because it's going to sell out so quickly. I don't want to
Yeah.
I know there's going to be a few disappointed people. So anyway, if you're interested in coming to the Command the Stage and you're hearing this, it's obviously a week since we've recorded. So if there are any spots remaining, yeah, is it on prophysique.com or do we have a
Yeah, so we have it's not on the actual Pro Physique
Oh
website,
yeah.
but if you're interested and
we'll
you're,
put it on there by then. How about that? By the time this comes out next Monday, I'll make sure it's up. We'll
yeah,
probably cut off this Friday. We'll cut off the private and
Or just DM one of us. I'm
yeah,
sure
I
we
was
can
gonna
send you the
say
link.
DM
That's
one of
probably the easiest.
us.
yeah, you can always DM us. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that event because that was February is always a nice time in Tampa, and we I like the event. I like when we can kind of walk, and it was in downtown Tampa, which is always a nice spot.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was I agree with you. I really like the walkability. Obviously, like that's where I live, or that's why I live where I live, because I love being able to walk places. So yeah, I think I'm trying to remember. So I remember we started the event off with like a nice rooftop dinner at Armature Works, and then the next day was like seminar day, training day at Powerhouse, and then I think we had that night well, we had a dinner at like the bowling place, and then I remember we had dinner. Did we have dinner at your house, Paul? Yeah, we did. We
Yeah,
had,
on Saturday night we ended up having dinner because one of the restaurants that we had reserved, I think our number got too big, and they're like, "Yeah, we can't accommodate everyone." So we ended up getting catering and having it at my house, which ended up being a hoot. We had a good old time.
yeah,
Yeah.
My favorite memory was it had to be Friday night. We all kind of had a few drinks at the bowling alley, and the thing about like a lot of these places, so when we
I
booked
forgot
the
about
event,
this.
we booked it's called Splitsville.
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 Yep.
Yeah, which is it's kind of a small little bowling alley, but it's more of adult themed. And so I think we had purchased a predetermined amount of alcohol. And of course, we're with like 30 bodybuilders. No one's drinking. So my favorite memory, I think, was I asked the waitress, I said, well, like, how many drinks do we have left? And she's like, 60. And I'm like, 60 drinks? And I was like, okay, well, I thought I would just play Santa Claus and give out drinks to all the people in the restaurant. So I ordered 60 Trulies. And she's like, well, I have to open them, like law. Like she couldn't bring them closed. So she brought over all these Trulies and cracked them all, and we were just handing them out to all the people. But then we decided it'd be really funny if we snuck a bunch out. So Brett Contreras had stuffed them in his back pockets. And as he was walking, they were splashing. So his legs and his butt were all wet from it. Do you know if you remember?
I remember this. They went to the Sangria bar after that.
Then we walked to the Sangria bar, and then he bought two giant.
Lala's.
Brett loves Sangria. He bought two giant pitchers of Sangria.
Oh, you know what's sad
Then
is
we went to the hotel and we got bottles of wine, and you gave
Oh,
me the bottle
that's
of
I
tequila,
don't.
and we took
Brett
shots of tequila.
Brett won't like me saying this, but this is one of my favorite Brett stories.
This is a great story.
So we go to the like because we don't need to be out and about. Like there's like 15, 20 of us. We're all laughing, having a good time. So we're like, let's go hang out at the hotel lobby. They had that giant table, right? So we're all sitting at this giant table in the hotel lobby. They had like the breakfast area. And then so I go, well, let me just go buy whatever alcohol they have left. So I went to like their little area and bought like a couple beers. They didn't have a ton, like 8 or 10 drinks, a couple bottles of water for everybody. And I take it up to the counter, and the lady's like, you want all of this? That's going to be a lot of money. And I'm like, what do you mean? It's like $60 or $70, right? And Brett comes over and slaps his card down and he goes, I'm rich.
Because it was about the bottle of wine was like $20 or something.
Yeah.
And she was like, "Are you sure you want this?"
Yeah. This lady thought we were spending so much money on like drinks. Mind you, we had booked like 30 hotel rooms. So that's where the real money went. But it was just really funny that Brett was he was laughing as he said it. And the guy behind us in line had like a soda, and Brett took the soda, put it on the counter, and gave it to him and said, "Taken care of." Like.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
Yeah, that was a good time. So we're gonna relive some of those memories in Fort Lauderdale. Fort Lauderdale's very Tampa-esque, lots of walks
Yes.
and
I loved it going down for Atlantic Coast like that, which is going to be like kind of the same area as Brett's gym. I loved that area. It was
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
Yeah. And then, so we had Command the Stage in February. And then shortly after that, I think it was a week or two later, we were all at the Arnold.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a big Arnold too, because I love what they did this year. They had the competition on Friday for the NPC, which in the past, I think one year it was on like a Wednesday. So I had to get there on Tuesday and stay till Sunday. This was much better, getting in on Thursday. Oh, how about who sat between us on the way to the Arnold, Lexi?
Oh my gosh, yes, that was this year. So yeah, Paul, you and I, we had the same Southwest flight. I don't even think we planned that. I don't remember if we did. But yeah, Derek Lunsford sat in the middle, and it was a joke because Paul always gets like the 10th row window seat where you get the extra leg room, right?
I try to. I'm on that Southwest where I'm like the A list. So
A-list
when I
preferred.
book, it always gives me like a high, like an A something. And so I always usually get a good exit row seat.
Right. And then I walked on and you saved me a seat and I was like the aisle seat. So, I have easy access out.
Everybody wants to sit next to Lexi on a flight. She's the tiniest human. They're like, please don't let
Well,
me sit next to Paul or Evan. I want to sit next to Lexi.
Yes.
yeah. And then Derek comes walking down the aisle, Derek Lunsford, which, it happens a lot. I feel like a lot of times when I'm going to like the Olympia or the Arnold and I'm flying out of Tampa, you always see like people
Always.
that are going to the event too. So Derek Lunsford was walking down the aisle and Paul jokingly was like, "Hey, Derek, we have a seat for you. Or you want to sit in the middle?" And Derek was like, "Sure." So
Well, he was
Derek,
like the last person on the plane. So
yeah,
like it was down to middle seats. And
yeah,
I could see
true.
his head like, oh crap, where am I going to sit? And no one's going to invite him to sit with them because they're going to be like, look at the size of this human. Please don't sit by me. And I was
Yep.
like, no, this opportunity. Because I'm actually friendly with his wife and stuff. So he's just a nice dude. He's just a really nice guy.
Yep.
In
So
fact,
He's
I
doing
did
the
talk
Arnold
to
this
him.
year.
I talked to him yesterday via DM. He invited us to his gym, but it's not quite ready for us. Like he's like, you can come one-on-one and train with me, but I can't have your team come yet until some of the construction's done for insurance purposes. But very soon, probably in February, we'll go over there and train. It'll be cool.
oh, cool.
And
Yeah.
and he's also doing the Arnold this year.
He is doing the Arnold this year.
Yeah.
Which it's a pretty sick lineup, right?
It's a great lineup.
Yeah.
Really good lineup. Yeah.
Well, and you wonder how many of these guys are going to just roll on into the frickin' Pittsburgh with that prize money.
A lot.
Yeah.
And then New York Pros like a week after that too. So you start kind of
those
rolling into
three
that.
shows are going to be the gauntlet. Remember back in the 90s when they would do the Olympia and then they would do all those European shows back to back to back?
Yep.
It's going to be like that where you start to get all these pros just kind of like back and forth. It'd be cool.
It'll be good.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had Derek with us for 2.5 hours and I think we talked the whole time. Like he's just so chatty.
Yeah, we did. I do remember he fell asleep at the end, but I remember, I don't know why I remember this, but I remember actually our flight, it was early in the morning, but we had to like sit on the runway for a while. I do remember we sat on the runway for probably like 30 minutes, 45 minutes before taking off. But yeah, he was awesome. And we talked and then I know he fell asleep. And then that's also the weekend where we watched the amateur show together and then we got new names at Starbucks.
I was
Aiden.
Forgot
Aiden.
about the names.
Aiden. I forgot about that.
What was Evan's name?
Aiden.
Aiden.
It was because, so those of you guys listening, you know that when you go to Starbucks, they don't always mean God love them, but they don't always like hear your name right. So I remember we were standing there and they were calling Aiden and like nobody was going up to get a drink. And I thought to myself, well, maybe they mean Evan. And sure enough, they thought Evan's name was Aiden. So that was like a running joke. We called Evan Aiden. And then Paul, we called you Bernie.
Yeah, well, that's my real first name.
True. Yes.
Yeah. And which is funny in the Santa Claus, it's Bernard the elf. So I always like, oh yeah.
Oh,
That's
funny.
right.
Yeah, and then we got to watch the amateur show together, and I remember it was quick. Like it was over by what, 11 a.m. I think.
Yeah.
It
They
was
started like, I think they started at 8. And I mean, they started at 8. Like those girls were like done by 8:30. Like figure
yeah.
whatever the first division. I think somebody had a client that almost missed it. Like we got there right when the show started, and like Masters Bikini, was it you, Evan? Somebody we almost missed because we were like
Yeah,
outside like talking.
I had a master's bikini girl, yeah, and it was really, really fast. Like,
Yeah, like they were literally on stage. Like there was no women's physique, hardly any wellness. So they were on stage right after the show started. Um, and I think they had done the men on Thursday and then women on Friday. So like it was only women. The classes were small. It was Bill and Becky were judging, so they were, they know what they're doing. They don't drag it out. They just move people around and say thank you. Um, and yeah, and then it was Kalia won her class and Samantha won her class, so they were both in the overall. And then the girl that won the overall was fantastic, Anastasia
yeah.
yeah,
Anastasia Spargans, I think is her last name.
Reagans. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, because
So
she ended up going on doing a couple pro shows, and I think she did pretty well at her first one. I think she got first call outs in her first pro
yeah,
show. Yeah, because I think she did like one of the class shows, but yeah, I mean it was a very small like lineup, but definitely a lot of good competition. And I mean, yeah, I just kept thinking, gosh, it would be so nice to be one of those competitors because like you're done by 11, you could go out for like post show brunch, you know?
yeah. Especially on a weekend like that, it's nice where you go because as soon as you're done competing, there's stuff to do. There's the expo was opening up. Um, I just like Columbus. It's a fun city. There's lots to
it
do there.
is. Plus,
Yeah.
we went to that awesome steakhouse too. What was the name of
Lexi
that?
rolled her eyes. Why'd you roll your eyes, Lexi?
I mean, I don't know. I'm just not a big like I don't know if Ohio would be considered the Midwest, but like being from the Midwest, I always joke to my family. They know I hate it there. I mean, I go back to visit. I just anywhere where it's just gloomy and cold in the winter, it's not
Oh
for
yeah.
me. It's not for me. And I mean, I don't know. I haven't really explored Columbus a ton. But it just kind of reminds me of home, like St. Louis, and I don't know. It's fine, but it's just not for me. I wouldn't
Yeah, I
like
guess that's part of it.
I wouldn't willingly be like, oh my God, I'm gonna book a trip to Columbus. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, no one's
No, no,
gonna
no.
do
I
that.
honestly, if the Arnold leaves Columbus, because I've heard rumors of that, I would probably never go back unless it was for some random event. But I mean, it's also one of those cities that I was pleasantly surprised going there because I've been going there now 15, 16 years. God damn, I'm old. But and only because of the Arnold. And the city has improved. Like you've seen the changes in the gyms, you've seen the changes in the city, especially the downtown corridor where all the stuff is. The restaurants have gotten better, the accommodations have gotten better, like the Airbnbs and stuff. So like, yeah, I enjoy going. I don't enjoy 13-degree weather, but I also don't mind it because I get to come home to 80 degrees.
Very true. Very
It
true.
was chilly, and I didn't even pack anything warm. I remember that. I bought like one little hoodie.
Oh, my first year I did the same thing. I brought like this. I was like, oh, it's gonna be cold. And then you're like, why does my face hurt?
Yeah, I remember the good thing about the Arnold this year, like at least where I stayed in like hotel wise, was it wasn't like the I don't think it was the host hotel, but it was also a hotel that was connected via a sky bridge. So I literally didn't even have to
Mhm.
walk outside if I didn't want to. So that was fine because I just don't do the cold well. I hate it.
It was cold, and we went to that. Where'd we go to dinner that one night, Paul? I need to remember the name of that restaurant.
Oh, with Brian?
Yeah.
Oh, that was that steakhouse. That local steakhouse was phenomenal. Oh, I'm going back
Oh
there.
my gosh, we have to go back. That
I
was
have to go back
literally
there. I'd like to give them a shout out. I know I did on my YouTube channel.
it
Yeah.
was it was the
Remember,
best steak I've ever had.
I think we were all looking at each other like, is this really happening? How good is this steak? Yeah. Because Brian picked it. He invited us, I think. He said, hey, we're gonna
Yeah,
go here. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That was Friday
We
night, I
we
think.
had spicy margaritas and steak.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
You
it.
guys
That's a
That
are,
solid
absolutely
name.
needs to be reenacted.
Evan, are you planning to go to the Arnold this year?
Yeah, for sure.
Same. And I know you will, Paul. So we'll all be there again.
Yeah, well, we can discuss booking another Airbnb because we had a good Airbnb this year.
We did.
Me and Evan stayed in a hotel one night. I think we got there Thursday to train with the competitors, And then we stayed in the hotel one night. Then we all moved over to the Airbnb, which was really nice.
The Airbnb was great. They had that little like cafe next door that had the coffee and food and donuts and
Mhm.
all that stuff too. You could walk to. It was great.
Yeah, that's always like my favorite times on these. I look back over the last 15 years. It's like when all the work is done and we can all just sit down, have a drink, and just kind of sit around, eat and joke and laugh, and you end up like, telling some ridiculous stories. So yeah, this Arnold's going to be a good one for that reason, because I've just learned to really enjoy that part of the work, because you don't realize, you look back and those are the times you remember, not I remember the expos, but you remember like the times you spent with your friends. Um, yeah. And was there anything specific about that Arnold other than, Sam got her pro card, but like,
Um,
oh,
no.
here's something I never talked about. You guys know this happened, but I never really talked about it. I don't know why. I wanted to play it close to the vest. I got to hang out with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's
Oh
right.
yeah, yes. I remember you actually, I think you called me that night, Paul, because
Oh,
I was like, is he okay? But then you sent me that selfie of you guys. Yeah, you were so excited about that.
yeah, it was just I have a client that is on his staff and was like, would you like to meet Arnold? And I was like, what? And so we ended up at a specific, because when he's there, he's got his whole security team and he's got a whole schedule, but she knew all that stuff. And she's like, if you want to meet him, meet me here. He'll come over and approach us. And sure enough, he was there. He called us over. We hung out. We had like a 10-15 minute conversation. And I never posted about it. And I just felt like, you know what? I remember sending a picture to my dad and be like, hey, Dad, I was hanging out with Arnold. And, that's one of those life moments that you're like, I'll never get to, because this wasn't like a handshake and like a picture. This was like, he asked me where I was from. He asked me about like what I do, like it was a conversation. Like we were joking around. He's really funny. He ended up making fun of Josephine, who's my client that like works for him. She's like, he was making fun of her. What I'm saying? It was like a hangout. So it was like this, I don't know. It was more than just like a social media post. I was like, you know what? I'm keeping this one close to the vest. That's probably my highlight for the year. And it happened in March.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So that was good.
Yeah, and then after that, I think the two class shows were like not directly after that, but those were like the next two
Pretty close.
big
Yeah,
things.
well, I mean, that's something we can talk about, like what's going on this year, because we'll talk about, we have the stats for the bikini numbers for this year. I have to take this off. It's really hot in this thing. I turned my air down too, because I'm drinking coffee and I got a hoodie on. But the Clash is no more. The pro bikini, the Clash World Championship. What it was, I think it was the Clash
Well,
World Clash, because there was a
yeah,
bunch.
World Clash was, I believe, the one in May, and then I think the one in the first one of the year that's usually at the end of March was, I think that was just Clash, and then
Yeah.
that, and then there was Girl Power, and then there was the World Clash. Yeah, there were
There's
like
Clash All South, Clash Southern
yeah.
USA. He absorbed a bunch of shows, but whatever it is, there are no more Clash pro bikini shows. And so that was a big focus for a lot of us coaches, because the Clash shows were bringing Sandy as the head judge. And then you're getting in front of Sandy, and then you're going to like Junior USAs, right? So this was where, like, for example, Kathy Seitz won the overall there. Then we went to USAs. She didn't turn pro until Universe. But like that was a lot of a coaching strategy, is you want to get in front of those top 10 Olympia judges, and Joe is bringing them in, and they've announced that that's gone now. So the reason being, talking to Joe, the cost of putting on these shows has gone up so much. Like Florida for a few years was a very affordable place to do shows. He was telling me now, like the venues that used to be like 5,000 for the weekend are now like 15,000 for the
Yeah,
same venue. Like it's
and I
crazy.
just remember thinking last year too, at least the first two class shows. So like the first one at the end of March and then Girl Power, I remember thinking, wow, like the numbers were really, really small. And I do just think honestly, it was the time of year. But I remember thinking like in my head, wow, like that's for the amount of competitors and then the amount like he has to invest in obviously the hotel, flying Sandy out, all of that. I was like, it was probably really hard to even profit off of those, at least those first
So
two.
guys, I dug in and did some statistics, and I didn't want to just focus on the national shows, because you and I, and we all go to these regional shows and we notice the changes. So
Mhm.
2021 was the year that Kathy won the overall. She won the overall, and that was in March, right? So it's early in the year. She won the overall at Clash. There were 76 competitors in the open bikini. So, you figure A through H, that's, almost 10 girls a class. 76 girls in an NPC open bikini show. This year there was 29. So as a promoter, that's 50, almost 50 competitors just from one division gone at, I don't know, 250 a head. You're looking at $10,000 gone off your docket. And if people that don't know, show promotion is scary because you front everything. I used to promote a show and you're spending upwards of $15,000-$20,000 to get the show off the ground, and then you go, please sign up. Like, there's no guarantees. Now, as a promoter, you do a good job, you hope to get, but so like when the numbers don't come in to support what you're doing, guess what? You're breaking even, you're losing money, you're only surviving on sponsors. And if the shows are smaller, the sponsors are going to start pulling back. So I'm just guessing, you know, it's going to be a different year as far as competitions. We know about the Europa shows are gone. We know about the Clash shows are gone. Spectrum, which is like one of the bigger promoters on the West Coast, they don't have any pro bikini scheduled for next year in California. Muscle Contest has, I think, one pro bikini in California. I could be wrong. I looked over the list quickly, but I just think there's going to be a lot less pro bikini and NPC bikini shows this year. You're just seeing it happen.
Yeah, and I almost wonder, I don't know, I think like when you say that initially, it's kind of like, oh, it's kind of sad, but also like I don't mind that because I think that that's going to stir up better quality because we've talked
Mhm.
about it before when you have several shows every weekend, like, you know, it, it usually you're not getting as many competitors in the show. The quality is a little bit less, right? And then you're seeing, people, I'm not saying this happens all the time, but you're seeing people, getting an overall, but maybe they're not quite, hitting the mark, or you're seeing pro cards being handed out that maybe wouldn't otherwise be handed out. So I think that I look at it as a positive thing. I know it can,
Sure.
some people may be kind of sad about it, but I think it'll just help with the quality. And like, I've always been the type of person or athlete that I would much rather have to like work to get something and work within a quality group of something to get something rather than just being handed something like easily, if that makes sense,
Sure.
just because I'm there. So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, well, the sad thing for me is that the Clash was kind of the kickoff of the year. I liked
Yeah.
driving to Orlando. I love going to Iron Religion. If you guys haven't watched my YouTube vlogs, I probably have 5 or 6 different vlogs just of going to that show, and probably 15 of going to that gym in that show. Even the Olympia, that was the Religion. So like that was just a
Mhm.
fun weekend. It was like a 90-minute drive, a gym workout. I'd meet up with some friends. We'd go to dinner. We'd go to the show. It was like a nice weekend, and that's just gone now. That's no more. So, yeah, the Clash, and then the follow up to that, the Girl Power, which is still happening because that's now under Shannon Day's company.
Mhm.
The name escapes me. Is it Bombshell Fitness?
Bombshell, yeah.
That is still happening. We'll see how that goes without Joe promoting or co-promoting, because he's great at marketing, and he created the whole Clash Girl, and like he did a really good job marketing.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious because I foresee girl power still doing really well because I just look at something very comparable, such as like the all girl like Nashville Fit Show, right? That does so well. So I think that girl power has the potential to do very, very well just because it is an all girl show and
Yeah.
they could spin a lot off of that for marketing purposes. So hopefully it'll
Well,
be
you got to be nervous about an all-girl show when we start talking about these numbers. However, the one thing we can discuss is how towards the end of this year, the numbers started to climb.
They did.
absolutely.
Especially with the last show of the year in Texas, the Battle of Texas, having 680 competitors at one show.
And I think something interesting to note too is the Texas show earlier this year that we went to wasn't that big either, right?
No,
And
empty.
I think it's more the fact that towards the end of the year there just aren't as many shows, and when there are so many show options, they just poach each other and poach each
Yeah.
Yeah.
other and poach each other and poach each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm kind of excited for this year to see the caliber of these shows and how competitive they are. Cause I mean, as much as I guess it depends how you look at it as a competitor, like if you would have, going into the Texas show, the Battle Up production show, it's a big show and it's harder to do well, but like I feel like that for a lot of athletes, that pushes you to want to get better, and most
Yeah.
athletes feel a lot more accomplished when they win. And there was a pool of, 16 plus in their class as opposed to, oh, I won, but there were 3 girls in my class.
I mean, let's not forget that there was 52 competitors at Junior USA's.
Yeah.
And they give out 4 pro cards out of 52 girls. I mean, and if I remember correctly, Class C had 6.
Yeah.
Or
And
Senior C5. Yeah, one of the classes had such a low number that it was like, and I mean, only 1 or 2 of the classes even had a call out. Like they were just straight up like 8 or 9 girls per class. So,
I'm interested to get into the numbers that you have here too, Paul, with it, because
yeah,
I feel like the only shows that are big are the ones that have masters attached to them.
we'll talk about that. And
Yeah.
now I didn't track Masters numbers specifically because
But
that
that
means
rolls into the open numbers
you
too,
got to
though.
dig into the 50, the 45, the 40,
Yeah.
the 35, but I did track the shows that have Masters competitors that a lot of them cross over into the open. I just counted them as open. So we'll talk about that because that has an impact for sure on the open numbers at a show. But
Yeah.
you and I noticed at Universe, Evan, how small open bikini was because the way they do the masters at those shows is they bring them out in the first group. They don't get to do their individual routine. And so you realize like only 8 girls in this class did an individual routine. That means although there's 20 girls in this class, only 8 are open. The rest are crossovers.
Yep.
So like it started to hit me at that show and then it really hit me at North Americans. North Americans, wait till we talk about those numbers. All right, so we get to Clash. Any specific memory from Clash? I think I ended up playing putt-putt golf with Steven at like this alligator farm.
That's right.
I do remember seeing you guys doing that. No, maybe it was one of those shows. I remember walking out and seeing like, this was somebody who was not at the show, but they were just at the hotel. I did see somebody being like kicked out of the hotel by the police, like somebody staying there. But no specific memories. I don't think. I would say the next thing I can remember best would be Pittsburgh Pro because that was shortly after Girl Power. That was like second or third week of, I think it was the second week of May. Yeah.
Well, I do remember. So my client Christy was coaching the overall winner for Clash. She was fantastic, and she ended up turning pro at Junior USA. So that was a good memory because
That's right. That's right. Yep.
we did posing the day before, and I had some good competitors, and I think we had some good competitors, and we all saw Christy's client walk in. And we were like, "Oh, damn, show's over." She looked really good. I had a client named Lauren Mejias who I think will be a top 10 Olympian when it's all said and done. She was at that show. We weren't quite as conditioned as we wanted to be. And seeing the girl that was conditioned was like, okay, that's great. So that was a strong memory. And I remember how happy Christy was. And if I remember correctly, yeah, Christy and I think we got 5th at that show. That was our first show together. And she got first call outs and ended up 5th, I believe. So yeah, she's moved to Vegas and now she's moved back to Florida. So I'm excited to get her back on stage because every show she does, she stands out. She's just a stunning human being. So yeah,
Does a great look, great shape, great everything.
Yeah, just she's got the muscle, she's got the look. She's just great to be around too. She's just good people, which like you start to value that when you've been doing this a long time, just the people you spend time with. Yeah. Yeah. So the next big event was Pittsburgh. Is that the one where we had a Airbnb, Lexi?
Yeah, we got a really nice Airbnb. It was, yeah, we got to meet the host and everything. And
that's right. That was that nice lady.
Yeah. I remember I found it and and like the beautiful thing was it was within walking distance of the venue. So that was really nice. But yeah, it was nice and it was in the middle of everything. It wasn't, I don't think it was an arm and a leg. It was nice. It was, yeah, there was a rooftop. I remember we went up on the top and you could see all of downtown Pittsburgh. So that was kind of cool.
Pittsburgh is one of those sneaky cities that if you've never been there and you assume you know what it is, you're way wrong. It is a super young, vibrant, walkable, fun city with great food, great sights, great ambiance. Just Wonderful city. Yeah, it's one of those. I never would have gone to Pittsburgh if it wasn't for bodybuilding, and now I go at least twice a year.
Yeah, I remember after I did North Americans the last time I did it up there, I was up there by myself and I had to fly out straight from there for work that next day. And I remember I had like a day where I didn't have anything before I flew out for work. And I remember just walking around that little area. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like outdoor restaurants and stores, like
Yeah, the
almost like a
part I
town
think of is
square.
called Oakland. It's like it's near the college, and there's just lots of shops and restaurants, and
It's great.
yeah, um, the gyms are nice. Yeah, it's just one of those good cities. Um, I
People
mean,
are nice too. Service is good. Then that's a big thing with me too.
yeah,
Everyone out there was nice.
yeah. I mean, I was super excited to go to Pittsburgh because I had Brittany Hamilton, who had just gotten second at Wasatch. So I didn't bring up Wasatch, another one of my favorite cities. Um, that's actually going to be probably a more significant show this year because I think that's the first pro bikini show of the year now. Well, the first big one. Um, and of course,
Yeah, and the
you know,
prize money too with that.
Amy was on her trend of like doing all the shows where she did Wasatch, she did Pittsburgh, she did New York. I think, did she win them all again? Yeah, I think she won them all
Yeah.
last year. So getting second to her at Wasatch was pretty awesome because it was like, man, the thing is, I've said this for a while. Sometimes the person that gets the most attention is the one you're not familiar with. How many times have we talked about a girl who got second to Ashley Kaltwasser at a show, right? Because you're like, oh, who's that? I've not heard that name. You've heard Ashley's name 1,000 times. So Ashley wins is not news. And it was the same thing, like, oh, Amy wins, but who's looking good next to her? So I remember um Brittany Hamilton getting a lot of attention at that time. Like it was like, very interesting. So I was going into Pittsburgh with her and Ariana thinking like, man, we are coming for it. And we got our butts whooped. It wasn't a pleasant weekend for me. As a coach, you got to take some L's sometimes. That was a very tough weekend for me because I thought they both looked fantastic. We had gotten feedback that we were on track. In hindsight, Ariana had lost some muscle from, being out of the gym. Probably, not probably, definitely wouldn't have let her do that show again if that was the thing. Brittany was a tougher pill to swallow because she was kind of on,
Mm.
um, but it was your typical, Amy and Ashley battle, and I think it was a split decision, and Amy ended up winning.
Yeah. And then it was kind of cool, Paul. I remember that same trip. I don't remember what day it was. I think it was the Saturday. So like the day of the main event where we got to have like we sat down with Lauralee at like a cafe for a little while because she was just out in the lobby and she happened to have some time and we walked with her and sat down for a while and chatted, which was neat.
Yeah, I think she went to a restaurant with us, and she wasn't in prep at the time, so she was like just eating. She sat down and ate with us.
Yeah, and then Brittany Schulman joined too because she was
Mhm.
there. So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, and those are the things, I think I first met Lauralee at like the 2017 Olympia or 2018 Olympia. I remember it was like her first Olympia, and I had just by chance been at her pro debut in Toronto. And so it was one of those things like you just, when you're around this sport a lot, you just don't realize like the connections you make, they seem minor at first. And so, I've just known her since her start of her career, and we've always been friendly, and she's just an amazing person. And I think being friendly with Lauralee just makes me so happy that she won the Olympia this year. Like I know that was one of her career ambitions, and she kept struggling to get to that point. Like it felt like she was the favorite many times, probably for years. So seeing her in Pittsburgh, um, being an ambassador for the sport, she's one of those people, like if you see her at a show, she will love to talk to you.
Yep.
Yeah, she's very personable, very genuine. Yeah, and I appreciate that about her.
Yeah, and not for nothing, but she stays in her lane. She talks about things that she knows. She doesn't try to be somebody she's not. There's a lot of chatter about her on the internet. People have a lot of opinions about her, but I promise you, no one that's ever sat down and hung out with her has a bad thing to say about her. She's just a sweetheart.
Nope.
Um, so yeah, so now we're into May. Right, I want to say it was right after that I went to London with Steven.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a fun trip. For whatever reason, travel to London has gotten so convenient. I haven't been in a few
Really?
years. I got a round trip flight for like $700 direct from Tampa. In London, like when you travel to foreign countries and you have to go through customs, that's often like the biggest problem. We literally walked off the plane, walked through customs. They took a picture, the doors open, and we were out. I was like, what just happened? Like, they don't even screen you really. I guess the pictures are doing something with, behind the scenes. And then everything there is the subway or the trains, the tube or the trains. Now you don't even have to get a pass. You just tap your debit card, it opens the gate and it charges you like the rate for where you're going. I mean, it was
Super
so
smart.
easy to get around there. So that was just a wonderful trip. Me and Steven had a wonderful time. Um, there was an event that happened there where a bodybuilder, a classic guy, got beat to hell by
Michael
some
DeBull.
security guards.
Michael DeBull, who's also doing the Arnold this year too.
Yeah, and I think he was top 6 at the Olympia. Like, he's a Michael
He's
DeBull, right?
very good.
I mean, conditioning is like next level. But I haven't heard anything about that event.
No, about what happened after that? You're right.
Swept under the rug. I mean, he literally. So I was there with an athlete, Otavia, who ended up winning the Pro Bikini Show. So I was ecstatic. We walked out. I remember I was still holding, I think I was holding that little Olympia card there. And I remember seeing a dude on the floor on like a stretcher. And they're like, yeah, he got jumped. And I looked closer and I'm like, oh, that's the classic guy that I saw walking around. So I haven't heard anything about that. Like,
I can tell you exactly what happened. This is at least my assumption with it, is the fact that they knew they were in the wrong, and instead of pressing charges, they just settled and probably signed an NDA, because any settlement you do, most of the time there's an NDA attached to that, saying that you can't talk about it, you can't bring it up, you can't. It doesn't matter. Like, if you sign in malpractice suits, because I haven't done it personally, but I've been part of them before, people I know, is they could be the worst horrible thing you've ever imagined. A doctor could screw up horribly. You settle on that, you can never speak about it again.
well, yeah. And some of those
So,
cases, like 20 years later, they come out.
yeah.
Like, you hear about like Bill Cosby stuff. And like, you hear about,
Well, the P. Diddy stuff, that's what happened with him
yeah,
eventually. Yeah.
yeah.
Because he settled out of court, and then they changed the laws to where you could speak about it afterwards. And then that's when
Well,
all
and
this stuff happened
sometimes
about him.
the person that settled out of court reaches a point in their life where they don't care anymore and they just start talking. So yeah, that was odd. But for me, that trip was fun because Steven's he was the first employee I hired at Pro Physique it's almost 10 years now. And so just being able to walk around London with him and have, I remember we went and had a pint at a pub and watched a Manchester United soccer match. I mean, it legit was like, London life. And Otavia is fun to travel around with too. She's full of life, and her buddy Sebastian, the photographer. So we had a nice little crew of like people. We went around London. That is one of the top cities in the world as far as like the amount of things there are to do and how easy it is to get around. Highly recommend it. Like, between going to the Buckingham Palace and all the sites there, it's so easy to get around. It's just a really good city.
Yeah, it's on my bucket list. My mom lived there. Well, she didn't live in London. She lived in England, or like when she was younger. So we always say we'll go back there together one day.
It's a fantastic city. I mean, people are friendly. Like, yeah, it's just a good city. It's very tourist friendly. And it has a ton of history. So you're constantly like turning your neck like, wow, what was that? But that was obviously a highlight for me, winning a Pro Bikini Show internationally. We stayed in this really cute little village that was nice. It was like 45 minutes outside of London because that's where the show was. But yeah, trains there make everything so easy. So easy. I wish we had more trains here. You took the train to Fort Lauderdale, right, Lexi?
Yes, I feel like trains are a hidden gem. Like, I will definitely do that again at some point.
100%.
It's just so easy. And like,
Well,
well,
they moved the Miami show this year, Lexi, to May.
okay.
So it's Memorial Day weekend now. So I may try to take the train to that show.
Yeah. Well, I think part of why I love it too is like I can walk to the train station, not to like tell people where I live or anything. Like, I can walk there. So it makes it really easy. Like, when I went down to Fort Lauderdale, I just took my suitcase and just like walked to the train station. It's like less than a mile away. And honestly, it was so easy. It's just the appeal for me was that I could work while also getting from point A to point B. And I just hate driving. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Does the train go all the way to Miami or just Fort Lauderdale?
It goes all the way to Miami. That's as far south as it goes. And actually, the one that I took, it's called the Floridian. It goes
Oh,
as
there
far
it is.
south as Miami and all the way up to Chicago. So that's like the route that it takes. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, because I was looking at it to see, and no, it's they have one for Orlando to Miami too.
Yeah.
Well, the Orlando to Miami one, that's the one where you go, okay, people can go to Disney. I think that's the
Yeah,
attraction is like,
I think that's the bright line, right?
yeah,
Bright
it's the
Line.
Bright
Yeah.
Line. Yeah,
Yeah.
is that
That's
not what yours is?
no, so I took Amtrak because
Okay.
the Bright Line, I know somebody who lives in Boca who takes the Bright Line a lot to Orlando. So yeah, it's different, but I took the Amtrak because that's what comes to the Tampa train station right here.
Yeah, I just looked it up right here. Premium first class experience for $84.
Well, I paid
That's $84 spent not having to stop in traffic. Like that's well, and you can work, you can look outside, you can watch a show. It's awesome.
yeah, I spent a whopping $40 round trip on my Fort Lauderdale trip to and there. And like I didn't pay for first class or anything because you really don't need to. There was so much space. Like it literally is the size of like a first class on a plane. Like that's what their coach seats are like. So yeah.
Didn't you make a friend? Have you kept in touch with that friend?
Uh,
They're helping me, he's
oh,
helping me
cool.
with investments. Like, yeah. So
Nice.
yeah, I know. We're actually finalizing that today. So you never know who you're gonna meet. And yeah, it's cheap. You can work. So recommend it. I honestly thought it was gonna be really sketchy because
Yeah.
it, and it still kind of weirds me out because there's no like security. You just kind of like walk on and then they come to you about like 15-20 minutes in or 30 minutes in and just will get your ticket, but like there's no security or anything like that. And I know where the train station is in Tampa, and not that it's in a bad area, but it is just like on a street where there's like a decent amount of homeless people. So I kind of thought like I thought that there would be a lot of people on the train just kind of hopping on, but no, like lots of normal
I mean,
people.
that's still pretty expensive for just a casual person. You know, homeless people aren't hopping on a train for $40 to Miami, I don't think.
True.
So yeah, I've had the same experience because I used to always take the train from LA to San Diego, um, because sometimes it was cheaper to fly to San Diego and take the train up to LA, like half the price. It was a little hack I had. It would be like $300 to fly to San Diego and 600 to fly to LA. So I would fly to San Diego and take a $30 train up to LA. It was like an hour and a half, 2 hour train ride. Um,
Good idea. I've never thought about that. And I'm sure that that train too, like you probably get some good
that's a beautiful train. That goes right along the coast. So you're like looking at the
stuff.
ocean.
Beautiful. See, the Amtrak, I will say, from Tampa to Orlando, or I'm sorry, from Tampa to Fort Lauderdale wasn't the most scenic because you're kind
No,
of
it's
going to
there's
like the
nothing
middle. Yeah, you're going to the middle of
close.
nowhere.
No.
Yeah.
All right, so let's fast forward a
Oh.
little bit because Universe was an experience this year. Evan,
Universe?
you want to tell them what you did at Universe?
What did I do at Universe?
You snored.
Oh, I snored. Well, that's my candy addiction. I can't help that. Yeah.
You and Steven and poor Kate, like all I remember is getting text messages like they're making me take them to get Slurpees and candy.
We wanted candy.
That's like my strong memory from NPC Universe is just not sleeping because when Evan snores, listen, I don't want to detract from any of the women that listen to this that have a crush on you because I'm sure you don't snore like that all the time. But man, it was a struggle to sleep.
When I'm congested and I eat a bunch of shit before I go to bed, I do snore. So I have
Yeah.
to like be careful with that. Which is a
Yeah.
good deterrent too to make me not do that, right?
Yeah.
Is that why you got that big master bedroom to yourself in Texas in the Airbnb?
Oh, I have a rule now.
No,
When
it's
I
because
travel
Steven
with
didn't
Evan,
want to.
I'm like, Evan needs his own space.
That's it, baby.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
I didn't snore in Ohio though.
No. You hadn't snored before that. I think
Yeah.
one time we even
It's
slept
candy.
in the same bed just because
Yeah.
there was one bed in that room and never a problem. But that, for whatever reason,
That
that
candy,
trip,
bro.
Steven and I did not get much sleep. It was a weird thing. The way that show was run, it was on a Friday. I think we got in like Thursday morning. I don't think I slept Thursday or Friday night.
Mm.
It was the 4th of July. I remember going to watch the fireworks, so I remember that very specifically. But I'll never forget. I got a text from Kate that's like, I'm taking them to get Slurpees and candy. I'm like, what? Like that doesn't sound. But Steven had just had a surgery and he couldn't eat much, and like Slurpees was one of the things he could have. So he was on a Slurpee kick. And that was a fun day because that was two of my favorite competitors turned pro at the same time. Stephanie and Kayla, and it was just such a fun,
Yeah.
like, so they were both backstage after they won their class. They were backstage, and I heard when Kayla got her pro card, they keep the class winners for the overall, and so there, as the show is happening, they take Kayla over to where the other class winners are, where Stephanie had won, and you just hear this screech, and the announcer even goes, "Somebody's happy," right? Because they were like screaming because they were hugging. So that's something I'll always remember. But
I could definitely see that with them, especially Kayla. I saw her this past week at a wedding, and yeah, she's full of life.
she's amazing. Yeah, she's yeah. It's funny because she was probably one of my more challenging clients when we first started, because she has almost like neuroses. She likes to over control every single thing in her life, and I think it starts to become overwhelming. And she's learned to manage it very well. But now she's one of my most consistent athletes. Like she stays lean, she eats well, she trains hard, like, yeah. So that's a memory I'll always have. Stephanie was someone that I think we all saw her at the Command the Stage and we're like, damn, she looks good. What's, she has a daughter that looks similar in age to her, like she's like
I know.
38 or 37 and she looks like she's 20.
When you told
When she told me that at the Command the Stage, I was like, you are 100% kidding me.
Right.
I thought the same thing.
I was like, you have a 17 or 18-year-old child like you do?
Right.
I was like, Puerto
well,
Rican blood different.
and it's also just a testament. Bodybuilding, I always say, fountain of youth. I mean, if you do it smart, like, of course, as a female, but like I feel like if you train hard, you eat well, you take care of yourself, it helps with aging.
Mm-hmm. Oh, never mind. That wasn't universe. That was the next.
We'll say natural bodybuilding helps with aging.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh yeah, definitely natural
Because
bodybuilding.
I've seen some girls go from 20 to 35 real quick.
Yeah, we've talked about that on this podcast before. Yes, if you do things
The
smart,
fountain of youth, Lexi.
yeah, if you do things smart, and I think you can definitely it can help you with the aging for sure.
Yeah. Look at it this way: when it comes to PEDs and fillers and lip filler and Botox and all this stuff, a little bit of it can be beneficial and help your life in a lot of ways. But you can always overdo it, and it'll make you look old as hell. Like we've all seen those
lip filler, Evan. That lip filler looks good on you.
We've all seen those like little 23-year-old girls that look like they're 39 because they got way too much stuff going on here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, so then
I'm not hating. I'll Botox the day I'm dead. I'll never stop that.
I feel like Botox is a little bit different than fillers. I don't know. It's a little bit like, I mean, you can go wrong with it, but it's not as risky. But
I need to get some more. I can move my face. That's unacceptable.
You've got emotions again. Damn it.
You can see my emotions. Men are supposed to have emotions, so it's fine for us.
Well, then I guess after that, I guess
Texas.
That's
the
us.
next biggest thing. Texas, where we had our seminar. What was the gym name that we had our seminar?
Hidden Gym.
Yeah,
that was fun. Great weekend. That was fun. The show was fun. The Airbnb was fun. The seminar was, packed.
Yeah. I loved that Airbnb too, because it kind of reminded me of like a more
don't say it, Alexa. Don't do it.
No, I was gonna say it reminds me of a more modern Brady Bunch house.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's the most Lexi statement ever. I remember me and Paul were together. We're like, how does Lexi even know what Brady Bunch is?
That's the shocking thing to me.
Oh, really? I did watch that show.
That show ended in like 1980, Lexi.
I know.
Way before you were born.
Oh, I know. But my cousins and I on my dad's side, we always used to watch it at Grandma and Grandpa's house. Like that was our thing. So I know a lot about it and I loved that show. So like seeing that sunken living room, immediately I was like, oh, Brady Bunch.
Well, I'm 56 and Paul's 48. So, we're old enough to know this stuff. You're like 22.
Let's see how many people comment you're actually 56. Oh my gosh. Yeah, but
Hey,
so
you're
that
3 years
was a
younger this week.
yeah, that was a fun weekend though with our seminar, the show. Lana was in that show. I know
Mhm.
she did pretty
Yeah,
well.
Lana, she had gotten top 4 at Republic of Texas, then she got top 4 at Texas Pro. And then in August, we went to Nashville. I don't think you guys went on that trip, but that was good. She got, I believe they said it was the first ever like posing award. She got like $2,000 and she got some other stuff for it. Best presentation in bikini, which was awesome because, what's funny is when she first started competing as a pro, we got feedback that her posing was bad because they didn't like all the stuff that she was doing. And it's like she stuck with it and still does those poses, the Amanda Latona pose, the Stallion pose. And all of a sudden, everyone's like, oh, wow, her posing is so good. It's just like it just takes time for people to get used to something.
Well, and I think she flows way better now than she did at those initial shows
Well,
too.
and
Like
she's
the
put more
transitions are
muscle on.
better.
She's not
Yeah.
as thin in the legs as she was then. So yeah, it's just funny because I do remember we got feedback from one show that her posing was bad. Immediately after this week before, we were told how good her posing was. So it's like different judges, different
Yeah.
strokes.
I also remember after that show when we were sitting at the Airbnb and her and her husband were sitting there talking about hand delivering these little puppy golden retrievers. And I looked at both of them and I wanted to throw up because I was like, y'all are literally like a Hallmark card cutest couple I've ever seen that are the sweetest human beings on the planet. Like people like you two don't exist.
No,
It's
they
like
are.
they're literally like a romance movie.
They are. Well, they look like a romance novel. Like
Yes, it's hilarious.
he's tall, handsome, nice, well built. She's obviously like an Amazon glamour model. Like, yeah, they're two together. You're like, you guys repopulate the earth.
Yes,
Yeah,
the world would be a better place if they repopulated the whole planet. Yes.
yeah. And so yeah, they have 3 golden retriever and they had puppies and yeah, yeah.
It's like I was like y'all like, this you have to see it to
You
believe it.
should have
Like you
seen them
don't find
after.
people like this.
So after the Nashville show, we went out in Nashville and they got wrecked, like drinking aggressively. We went to dinner and then we went out to some honky tonks. That was funny. Seeing Lana like jumping on him and being like, she was like, I was like, yes. Like it was good times. Yeah.
It's still a wild side, but it's like an innocent wild side.
It's an innocent wild side, but it's Lana. So it's like
Yeah, it's great.
every eye in every room you go into is on her. Like 'cause she's like 5'7", beautiful, and obviously she was like ripped, and it was just funny, like just the look, or just watching. I like to watch people watch people. Like I'm seeing the reaction. That was a fun night at those honky donks. And then it started to rain, so we had to run into a bar. We were all soaking wet. Yeah. Um, so after, well, I guess that gets us to August, September, October. Now we're starting to get into North Americans. Who was at North Americans with me? Was I alone there? Oh,
You
Daraja
were
came.
alone.
Daraja
Raja,
came
yeah.
up, and that was okay. So then let's start talking about the numbers for the shows. So this is a number that I like to talk about. So North Americans this year in the open bikini had 128 total competitors.
Hey, can I make a suggestion, Paul? Could we go
Yeah.
start from the beginning and run through the numbers and see how it progresses and declines rather than starting like in the middle?
Yeah, yeah. What do you want me to tell you?
Just all the national shows, like
Okay.
so we could see the total numbers kind of lean
Okay.
up and
So I want to start at what I consider the peak of the competition world, 2017. This is when the sport was peaking as far as like numbers on stage. So I'll just go show to show. Junior USA's 140, Junior Nationals 203, USA's in Vegas 196, Nationals Miami 276, Universe 213, North Americans 269. That is 2017 for a total of 1,300 competitors, basically. This year, Junior USA's 52, Junior Nationals 113, USA's 124, Nationals, which just happened last weekend, 171, Universe was 154, North Americans was 128, for a total of 742, or a 42% drop in national show open bikini competitors.
Well, one more. Can you say the numbers for junior USAs,
So
junior
I'll do
nationals, USAs, and nationals? Those four again.
this
For
year.
this year, yeah. 50
Junior
something.
USAs was 52.
Uh-huh.
Junior nationals was 113.
Okay.
USAs 124. Nationals 171.
Okay. And then North Americans and Universe were.
Universe was 154. North Americans was 128, which is a super low number. I don't know what
Yeah,
happened there.
that's interesting too, because those are the two shows that have masters too that can lead
Those
into
have
it.
the
The other ones
crossovers.
don't.
And just so you have an idea, in 2020, I don't really count because that was the year they pushed North Americans back. They didn't have junior nationals. So North
Mhm.
Americans numbers got pumped up artificially, but they were 275 that year.
That was
To
the tent year, right?
128.
COVID year?
COVID year. It was one of the shows that they actually had. They had it in the tents outside.
I had 33 guys in my class at that show.
Yeah. Well, listen, I didn't track the men, but I have a feeling if I track the men from 2017 to now, that's gone up significantly.
You think?
Yes. 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 And I think it's classic physique has grown
Yeah.
immensely. So yeah, if I ever get bored, I'll do the men because I am curious. But yeah, I mean, just let's go, just let's pick one show. Let's go, I don't know, USA's. USA's used to be the premier West Coast pro card show. It still is. From 2017, 196, 2018, 232, went up. 2019, 208, 2020, they still had it, 183, 2021, 160, 2022, 180, 2023, 134, this year, 124. So you have less people doing USAs this year than you had people doing junior USAs in 18, 19, and 20.
Yeah.
So that means the West Coast competitors are down. This year, nationals, last year was 217. This year is 171. So you have 40 less competitors in the bikini division. I think there might have been an uptick a little bit in the wellness. I noticed there was a lot of jack chicks backstage.
Yeah.
And then I remember being back there when bikini was starting to line up and I was looking around going, wait, where is everybody? It just felt empty. So yeah, I mean, so this year, all national shows total was 742. Last year was 885. The year before that, 906. The year before that, 1,041. So it's been a pretty, and I think we can talk about inflation. We can talk about the economy. I still think if you count those 160 pro cards that you're giving out at these shows for the bikini division, that's 160 people that are not eligible to compete at that show the next year. Not saying you shouldn't give out no pro cards, but giving out 40 pro cards at Universe and 40 pro cards at North Americans or whatever, whatever the number is. I don't remember exactly.
I wish they would do something where I feel like it would be a little hard to do, but I wish they would take more of like, okay, when they figure out the total number of competitors like the day before at athlete check-ins, I wish they would do more of a percentage of like pro cards as opposed to a like specific amount for each class. Cause I mean, if it's a really small show and they're still giving out 1-2 pro cards per class, that's when it kind of becomes tricky.
Yeah. So, Paul, I looked up the wellness figures. There were 73 wellness at nationals, but there's also only 4 classes. Same with classic. There's only 4 classes.
Yeah.
And 74 competitors. So it makes them, I mean, there's one class here for wellness that has 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 20, 25 girls.
If you look at the top, it'll say the number in parentheses.
Oh, does it?
If you're looking at NPC News Online, it'll say,
Yeah.
it'll
Oh,
say
20.
Wellness B 20. Yeah.
2016, 26, and 15.
Yeah. So yeah, and that's why I count the total numbers, not the classes, because if you go before 2017, bikini was only 6 classes, and back to like 2013 and 14, it was only 4. And I think the first year it was 2. So it's more to me the total number. And I think the reason they went to 8 classes in 2016, 2017 is because they were averaging 40 to 50 girls per class. So, you don't want to have 50 girls in a class. That gets hard to judge. But this year at nationals, there was a class with 14 girls. So you're giving 2 out of 14 girls a pro card because they
Yeah.
happen to be in this one little height. Whereas if they just did the overall, you know, you'd all the class winners. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bikini had a few big classes in there, but not.
there was
They had a couple
3
28 and
classes of
27s.
26. So A, C, and D were all 25 and more. No other class
27,
was near
27,
that.
28, and 27. Yep.
Yep.
And then
But
23.
you know what's funny about those numbers? It says 27, but if you count, it's actually 26. I don't know why it's always one more.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, go look at like class E or class F, the class that had 14.
Mm-hmm.
And because it doesn't go plus 16, so you can see the number, it'll say like 15, and you look down below and it only goes to 14. I
Yep,
don't
you're
know.
right.
Yeah, I don't know why it counts an extra person.
It does.
So if you
It
go by
counts.
that,
It counts the comparison at the bottom is what it's counting.
okay. So it counts 8 extra people if you go by the number, but it's 8 less if you just go by the actual total.
Yep, you're right.
So anyway, so and then figure was really small at nationals,
Oh my gosh.
right? Which is usually a pretty big category for a national show because you got muscle, right? And it's Texas
There is a class with 9 and 2 classes with 10 girls.
in figure.
No, 3 classes with 10 girls, or 2 classes with 10 girls and 2 classes with 9 girls.
Yeah. Yeah. There was what, a total of like 60 in figure, 70? I don't even know.
About that, geez.
Yeah. So I knew it was small because what they do when the classes are small is they don't bring them out in groups first. They just bring them out and do their individuals, and then they put them all in a line because they don't need to compare them because there's only one lineup. So yeah, when that's happening, you know, like, oh, okay.
Oh, women's physique almost had more girls than figure this year.
Yeah, and that's the thing. In Texas, I think the culture of muscularity is a little bit higher. So I think, especially with the wellness, I noticed, you know, wellness is probably going to do well in Texas.
Mhm.
But I would have thought figure, but I just feel like figure's that in between division right now that's kind of getting butchered.
Yeah. I like the smaller amount of classes. Like I'm just looking at men's classic physique right now. There's 21 in class A, 36 in B, 31 at C, and only 17 at D. Like,
Oh, classic was smaller this year.
yeah. I mean, men's physique, 29 in class A, 31 in class B, 22 in class C, 24 in class D, 24 in class E, 23 in class F, and 16 in class G, and 18 in H. So
Now that's not huge either. That's smaller than bikini then.
it's
Okay.
just there's too many in these divisions now. There's too many classes. I think there's too many classes
Yeah, I
because when
think
you start going up in
they
height,
should
it cuts
decide
down.
how many classes there are based on registration. So like
Yeah,
in
I agree.
bikini, if they get over 200, go to class H. If you get under 200, go to
Mhm.
class F. Do 6. I don't know. This is obviously above our pay grade. We're just chattering about potential things, but yeah, I don't know. And that because the concern I have is the shrinking number at nationals and at the local shows. And part of me believes if over 10 years you've given away 1,500 pro cards to bikini competitors that are now essentially retired because out of those 1,500, you're going to have 50 girls a year at the Olympia. So that's 1,450 girls that are not going to the Olympia that are probably going to call it quits shortly after. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you open it up, whereas if you don't compete as a bikini pro or maybe if you don't compete as an IFBB pro in 2 years, you lose your qualification. You got to requalify. That would bring a lot of new
Yep,
talent back into the sport, and that would raise up the level of the competition.
I think it would.
Um,
I think 3 years is probably a good number for that for most people. Like you need to compete every 3 years because
yeah.
some people take growing phases for a long time too, especially like open guys, right? They'll
Well,
get in there and need that.
remember Jose Raymond won the overall at nationals, I think 3 years in a row, and turned down the pro card every year because there was no
Mhm.
212 at that time, or it wasn't even a 202. They had 202
You're right.
version,
I
and
think he turned down like 3 times.
he was like a light or light bodybuilder, and so he waited and waited, and like the last time he won the overall was when they added the 202, and then he came out into the pro league. Um, so yeah, it's just interesting, and I guess I don't know. As a coach, it's weird for me because I had the same amount of competitors that I've ever had this year. I didn't have less competitors hitting the stage. I had more pros than I've ever had hit the stage this year. So like my stage stuff shifted, but I think I had 12 or 13 bikini overall winners this year. I had 10 pro cards this year, the most I've ever had. So to see the numbers down, it doesn't necessarily hit me until we're at a show and we look around and go, where is everybody? Like,
Right. I feel like, yeah, in that case, it would make sense that it would just be because there's so many, there's like an oversaturation of so many shows. Cause I mean, because I haven't seen, like, I'm with you, I haven't really seen like a decline in competitors on my roster this year. So I feel like it just has every bit to do with the fact
what about
there's,
the idea of moving nationals back to its old date of November 22nd?
I think December is a horrible time to have it. I think before Thanksgiving is prime
They haven't
time for
announced
that.
the Olympia date yet, right? What if they move that back to September?
they haven't,
They
and that's
should.
very weird because I know that I've heard some pros talk about how that's been kind of challenging because it's like, they haven't announced that date yet.
This will be the first year where the number of bikini competitors at the Olympia significantly drops because they're going to move it forward. There's less shows coming out of the gate. And I think the top pros are competing with a little more frequency, right? So like,
Yeah.
um, you know, it'll be interesting. This could be the first year that we see like, instead of like 55 at the Olympia, like 45 or 40 or something.
This is the way I look at all of this, and this is how sports typically go. If you look at things like the NFL, the NFL's big, right? But there was something special when games were on like Sunday and a game on Monday, and then it went to Thursday, then it went to Saturday, and things become less special when they are all over the place all the time. I understand you want
Yeah.
you want promoters to be able to have shows and make money and things like that, but more is not always better. It's
Well, I
not.
think Texas is the great example because in Texas, they have half the shows that Florida has, and they have more competitors.
Because there's
By
less, yeah.
They have more NPC card holders in Texas. And so you had a show like Battle of Texas with 680 people. We didn't even approach that at a single show this year in Florida. Not even half of that.
I can tell you this. I have a couple clients that are doing shows earlier on, and we were talking about doing the class shows. Now those aren't there, right? So now probably everyone's shifting to like Girl Power, and they're excited because they get to compete against other people that they've been wanting to compete against, and they were all going to be split over multiple shows at that
Right.
point. But now they're all doing one, and now
Right.
that builds like the excitement with it too.
Yeah. Well, now if you win a show like that, like if you win a show with
You're
80
ready.
competitors, you're ready to go to nationals.
Yeah.
I remember the girl that won the overall at Girl Power went to nationals. She didn't turn pro, and I was like, yeah, she just doesn't have enough muscle, but she had enough muscle to win a smaller show. She had a great structure, great physique, but and I don't want to sound like a cynic, but I go to more shows than anybody else. Like the only other people that go to my shows, as many as me, are the other coaches that are coaching competitors at the same level as me. And I've been saying it all year. I haven't seen the wow factor in the champions. The one of the few that we saw was the girl that won the overall at the Hurricane. Me and Evan were like, okay, that's a bikini pro. Like she walked out and we're like, okay, show's over.
And she had also been competing for 9 years.
I believe she had taken 3 years off. I think I kind of dug in a little bit on her and her story a little bit. And so like, yeah, she had taken 3 years off or, time off between shows. And so that's what happened. She came out of the gate, won 2 back-to-back overalls, and then she went to the Bahamas, won the overall there, got her pro card. I bet she would have won the overall nationals. Like she was fantastic.
That's the one we saw too, Lexi at Lakeland. Remember when she walked on stage? We're like, okay, nobody's beating this girl.
Right. But how many times this year did I see that? I saw it to a degree a little bit at the Pittsburgh show. Holly Baxter looked very polished. She looked ready to be a pro. But she's also been pro figure and, she's been competing for more than a decade. She has all the muscle and she has all the structure. And so she did one show and got her pro card, right? But I didn't see a lot of that at shows this year. Like some of the shows where I'm expecting like to see like some wow factor. I'm like, okay. Not necessarily seeing the depth, but I also sometimes go, and Steven also says this to me, well, you coach more pros now, so you're jaded. You just say a girl looks okay when they look ridiculously good. So, sometimes that can happen.
It can, but I agree with you. Like the eye test is a thing, and it hasn't been. It's just when the talent pool, and this is not disparaging to anyone who's currently competing, but when so many people turn pro, with it, it just dilutes the talent pool. There's only so many people.
That's really my thing, is like, you used to go to nationals and see a girl get third or fourth and be like, oh wow, that girl's ready to be a pro. They would take the next year off, come out at the end of the year. I don't feel like you see that as much anymore. I think girls get caught up chasing the pro card when they get close. They just do another show and another show,
Yeah.
instead of like going, you know what, let me come back. I'm actually excited for Kaylia. You guys, she won her class at the Arnold, won her class at Junior USA's, probably would have turned pro at Junior Nationals and said, you know what? No, I'm done. I'm going to grow and I'm going to come back next year. And I was like, sweet. I love it. So we're 11 weeks out from the Arnold right now. She took that whole time from May until now to like build. And so that's bodybuilding. Yeah.
And when she turns pro, she'll be ready to go compete in a pro show.
Yeah.
And she won't need to take 2 years.
And she's not in a rush to turn pro. Like, she wasn't like, I need my pro card. She was like, she's like, I want to represent a pro. I don't want to just get a pro card. And there's a lot of girls that get a pro card, you know, and I've been the beneficiary of some of those, but there's a lot of girls that get a pro card that you're like, it's going to be tough now. It's going to be real tough. So,
yeah.
All right. So that brings us up to what? I guess we get into a little bit of November, like the Olympia timeframe, October, November. Any good memories?
I mean, Atlantic Coast was fun. I enjoyed that. But gosh, I feel like we get up on November and December and it's kind of just like you blink and then we're here and it's almost the end of the year and it's kind of crazy. So yeah.
I mean, for me, November was special because of the Ben Weider. This was the first year that the Ben Weider had an Olympia qualification and pro cards at the same, well, actually no, because Brittany got her qualification there, but last year, but it just felt like a bigger year this year, the Ben Weider. I think we had a lot of competitors there.
Yeah.
And that's a fun show. DC is a great city. Another top, I don't know how to say top 10 or top 5 city, but amazing city to travel to. So that was a special weekend for me because Alexandria had won 3 overall. So for her she got her pro card. Lana got her Olympic qualification. Lana's husband competed. He got 3rd in his class. The dudes showed up at that show. He looked phenomenal. And he still only got 3rd. So that was a fun weekend. It was a big group of us, but it's almost like there's so much going on. You don't even get to reflect on it. You just go, go, go. And then we were right into, now we're basically, I got a show this weekend. I'm going to go down.
Right.
I'm sad I'm going to miss it, but I'll just miss it because I'm flying out that night.
Yeah, I'm going back to Georgia this weekend, so for Christmas.
Oh, nice. See some family. Yeah, it's only a 2-hour drive for me, and I've got John Hansen's doing it. So.
That's right.
That's right. Oh, and before we wrap this up, I will say too, so the next podcast episode that we do, I'm going to bring Lana on. So we've talked a lot about Lana in this episode. So Lana's going to be on in our next podcast episode. We're going to talk about posing, presentation, stage look, all that.
Yeah, Lana's become probably my top posing coach. She's just gotten the great feedback. She's got a great personality. She's got a great eye. I don't know if you guys get the text messages, but I'll be at a show with an athlete and she'll DM me and be like, hey, I was watching your story and the girl's doing this, fix that. And I'm like, damn, she's pays attention. So
she does.
Yeah.
Every client I've had that works with her is like, she is awesome. Like she's just, I love talking to her. She's super positive and motivating, and she's great.
Yeah. She's super sweet. She's super bubbly, personable. And I think that helps too as an athlete, especially like if you're newer to posing, you know, I think just feeling comfortable with who you're working with is really important.
That's part of it. That's part of it for sure. And I think that's multifactorial. You want someone that's a good teacher.
Yeah.
B knows the sport very well. And no one knows the sport as well as a bikini Olympian. Like you just have to be on top of everything that's going on in the sport. Like, you know, the pros see things and hear things before it gets trickled down. You know, all right. Yeah. Well, any other topics you guys want to talk about?
Don't think so. I think we did a good job at kind of recapping the highs.
It's hard with so much.
I know.
It's just a lot. So yeah.
We should probably do like quarterly wraps or or
We
maybe
could.
6 months and kind of go
Well,
back over
I think
detail
throughout the year
things.
we also discuss, like, if there was a show last weekend we were on, we kind of do a review of the event we
Yeah.
were just at. So it's not like none of that stuff was discussed, but this was more of
Right.
a
Well,
Or maybe like the state of the divisions and kind
well,
of
and
talk about that maybe twice a year.
and because we've been getting a lot of good traction, like with YouTube comments, do us a favor if you're listening and comment below what you guys want to see more of us, or more from us topic wise in 2025. Like if you guys want us to talk about something more regularly or frequently, like put it in the comments. We will always take that into consideration.
yeah, that's, I mean, we understand, like, we're going to be repeating ourselves a lot on content, but we try to update the information. And for me, it's going to be all about, now that I'm into these numbers, I'm going to pay attention to what's going on in the sport early in the year. They've added, so we'll end on this. They added another pro qualifier for natural competitors in May. How is that going to impact things? So you're adding another pro qualifier, that's going to impact potentially the Ben Weider. It's also right before Junior USA's. Is it going to impact Junior USA's in a positive or a negative way? Like, who knows? Um, you know, so yeah, it's just, I like paying attention to data. As a coach, you get a sense and a feel for things based on the feedback you're getting at shows or, in your inbox. But looking at the raw numbers, I think I was a little shocked. I think for me, if you told me before this year how many competitors were going to be at national shows, I would have been shocked. Yeah, I think I thought, because we ended the year last year strong, 217 at nationals. I was like, okay, here comes the wave. To have 52 at Junior USA's, I was looking around going, what's happening right now? How is there 5 girls in Class C?
I know. I remember getting not a text, a DM. I was DMing another coach, not on our team, but she was like, yeah, there's literally 5 girls in this class. And I was like, whoa.
I
Yeah.
remember being backstage, and usually you're stepping over people and just being like, something's weird. Yeah. So, and that trend continues. Like, it wasn't just a small show. It was about the percent less that every other show was this year. So we'll just see. It's fun to pay attention and, pay attention to trends. We want to bring you guys all the information that we're seeing, relevant stuff. We're going to talk about, this year ahead, we're going to make sure we're talking about the standards of the sport. We'll talk about PEDs, we'll talk about nutrition, we'll talk about peaking, we'll talk about strategies, around the sport. That's what we're here for. So
Yeah.
it's in my brain. And most of all, have a Merry Christmas, guys.
Yes. Merry Christmas, guys. You guys will see me and then Lana next week. You will not see our Christmas tree, Paul.
If you're going to be at the Holiday Classic, I guess it already happened. I'm going to wear this at the Holiday Classic. I just have to.
Are you really? Oh my God.
Of course.
I need a picture.
And I might wear my rock shirt under it. So when I go like this, you just see the rock everywhere.
Oh goodness. All right. Well, thanks.
Just make sure you wear something
guys.
under it, Paul.
Ooh, I don't know. I'm looking kind of sexy these days.
I know.
I'm kind of lean. I didn't gain a lot of body fat this year. This is probably the leanest I've ever stayed over the course of a year. I've been between 210 and 220 the whole year. So
I was like 234 this morning. Let's not talk about that.
beefcake.
All that candy.
Ooh. Oh.
It was crumble cookies.
Tis the holidays.
It was crumble cookies. Don't lie.
I don't buy those for myself. They're there though.
Thank goodness you don't live
Me and
in
Lexi would have to disagree as we watched you take piece after piece.
the crumble. The crumble is good. I know a lot of people hate on crumble, but honestly, I think it's pretty good, especially with
Is that what we had in Texas with the crumble?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
I don't mind it. I'm not a snob. Some people are like, Dunkin' Donuts, they're gross. I'm like, they're actually delicious.
I
Don't
mean,
hate on it because it's corporate.
I think crumble is a cool concept because they change their flavors every week. Like that's exciting for a lot of people marketing wise. So
Yeah.
I think it's a great concept.
Listen, I'm not a snob. I will go to Olive Garden all the time. It is a good value. Don't be a food snob out there, people. Be better.
And on that note, have a great Christmas. Don't be a food
Merry
snob.
Christmas. Don't be a food snob.
That's it.